Okay. So this right here is one of the main commandments of the Most High that's not written in the Big Ten, which is the Ten Commandments, by the way, right? Verse 37. And Wamalak spake unto Moshe, saying, verse 38, speak unto the children of Israel, okay, and bid them, which is command, right? When you look up the definition of bid, is command them that they make them fringes, okay, in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, okay? This is a generational thing, man, all right? A generational commandment, ordinance, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribband of blue, okay? Now, just to clear something up, like I was having a discussion, with a few brothers and sisters about this, right? Now, when concerning, the fringes, okay, when the Most High says, thou shalt make upon the borders of your garment a ribbon of blue, okay, that's speaking about the borders of your clothes, right? Now, some people may think that the borders of your clothes would be something like this right here. They would think like the ending of this right here is a border. Now, that's not exactly correct. This is just exactly what this is. This is just the ending of this right here, right? So technically, a border of your clothing would be like the inseam of the clothing, like of your shirt or your jacket or your pants or whatever, which is on the side of your pants. Okay, your inseams of your shirt would be like right here where your sleeve is at. Okay, it's like a line that separates the torso part from the arm part. All right, so that's your borders. Okay, so that's technically what a border is according to definition. Like if you look at it economically, when the saying is of Canada and the United States, right? When they say the border of the United States and Canada, okay, that's exactly what they're speaking about. There's a line that's between the two nations of Canada and the United States, but it's still land. Okay, it's not an ocean or a lake or something like that that's at the edge of Canada and the United States. It's two lands. So when it speaks of a border, it's speaking about something that's dividing the same thing, right? Like the inseams of your shirt, the torso area and the shirt area, as my thumb is pointing to right here, it's still on the same shirt. It's still a part of the shirt, right? So that's a border, right? It's not the end of the shirt, right? Like right here, this is the end of the shirt around the collar. That's not a border. Okay, it's the inseam. So when you're supposed to put fringes on the borders of your clothes, it's talking about the inseams or the inseam going down the side of your pants, right? The line. So that's like the border of the United States and Mexico is still land. The United States is a land. The land of Mexico, the country of Mexico, is still a land, right? It's not talking about the Gulf of Mexico. That's the reason why it's called the Gulf of Mexico, because it's the land of the United States and there's a body of water there, which is called the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so the borders is a lining between something that's of the same thing, right? Or the same place, right? The border of North Carolina and South Carolina, the border of New York State and Pennsylvania, okay? The border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, the border of California and Nevada, okay? Or Oregon, heading northward, right? So that's what a border is. So when the Most High tells us to put fringes on the border of our garments, that's exactly what that's talking about. It's not talking about the end of your shirt, which is the bottom of your shirt. Or if you want, you can make a border at the bottom of your shirt, which is making an inseam, and then you can put fringes there. You can do that too. All right. But technically, the bottom of your shirt is not a border. All right. So you have to create a border, which is an inseam, or put it on the inseams of your shirt, which goes across the back of your shirt or your jacket, or you can wear your fringes, which is your zits or zazas or whatever as I call it, on your pants. And then you can put the fringes down the inseam of the side of your pants, right? That's what a border is. Just to clear that up, right? Bid them that they make them fringes in the border of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribband of blue. Verse 39. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Most High, and what? Do them, okay, which is an action word. Do is an action word, all right? So that goes against the doctrine that these so-called Christians would give you and tell you that you're not saved by works. Okay, you're not justified by your works. You just got to have faith, which is a law in itself, which is the very first commandment of the Ten Commandments, man. Right? In continuation, and that ye seek not after your own heart. Okay? Don't seek after your own counsel, man. And your own eyes, after which ye used to go a whoring. Okay, so when you go a whoring, that means you're following false idol gods, okay, demigods, lowercase g, false philosophies, false ideologies. You're joining sororities, fraternities, secret societies, okay? That's following your own mind, man, right? Verse 40. That ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy, okay, set apart, holy, all right, unto your God, which is your power, all right. Verse 41, I am the Most High, your power, which brought you out of the land of bondage to be your power. I am the Most High, your power. Okay, this is another reiteration of this in verse 41. He's letting you know he's your God, man. So you're supposed to be serving your God, man, right? Not serving demigods, lowercase g gods, right? You following Krishna, Shiva, Madhava, Chemosh, okay? You're following Fuchsius, right? You're following King Selassie and Rastafarian, okay? You're following so-called Islam, Muhammad, okay? African spirituality. Some of you just full-blown witches and warlocks, right? Following demigods, demons, man. But what the Most High said right here in verse 41, I am Wamalak, your power, which brought you out of the land of bondage, which is slavery, to be your power. I am the Most High, your God, man. Okay, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, which is another reiteration of the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, right? And we're going to start from verse 12. And it reads here, and now Yasharallah, right? The descendants of Israel, the tribes, right? What doth the Most High power require of thee, but to fear the Most High? Let me move this out of the way. To walk in his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Most High thy power with all your heart and with all your soul, which is your body, right? Verse 13. To what? Keep the commandments of the Most High power and his statutes, which I command thee this very day. Okay. September the 7th. All right. 2025, man. Okay. Which I command thee this day for thy good. Verse 14. Behold, Shemayim, and the Shemayim of all Shemayims is the Most High powers. The earth also, with all that therein is all of creation is in the earth. Even money belongs to the Most High, man. Right? Verse 15. Only the Most High had a delight in thy fathers, which is your ancestors, to love them. Right? So the Most High only loved us, man. We his only chosen people, man, in the earth. All right. Verse 15 again from the top. Only the Most High Power had a delight in your fathers, okay, your ancestors, to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above what? All people, okay, all people in the earth, man. All right, the Most High chose us over all people, man. As it is this day, okay, September the 7th, 2025, man, the Most High still have us, the descendants of the tribes, man, as his chosen number one road dogs, man, right? Verse 16, circumcise therefore your foreskin of your mind, okay, which is your heart, and be no more stiff necked, right? Be no more rebellious, okay? For rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, all right, which is written in the book of Samuel, right? But of course, a lot of you so-called Christians wouldn't know that because you don't read the Old Testament, right? So circumcise, therefore, the foreskins of your heart, which is an action, okay, and be no more stiff-necked, verse 17. For the Most High, your power is power of all demigods, lords of lords, a great power, a mighty and terrible, which regardeth not persons, no matter if you're rich, poor, no matter if you're famous or not, no matter if you have a status quo, no matter if you have all of the worldly possessions. He regardeth none of those things, man, right? Nor taketh reward, okay? So you can't pay your way into heaven. No matter how rich you are, you will not receive heaven, man. You will not see the Most High, even if you're a trillionaire. You can't pay your way into heaven, man. Right? As the old saying goes, you came into this world naked, you're going to leave out naked. Right? So you can't pay your way into heaven, man. Okay? Now let's go back to the pamphlet. All right? I believe it's Romans chapter 3, verse 28, right? And also, as it says right here, it says, God's love, which is ahava in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, right? The Most High Power, ahava, has made a way, right? Romans 5, 8, 9. But the Most High Power commendeth his love towards us, in that while we were yet, okay, I don't even think I have that. All right. Okay, so I'm guessing it's up here. And then it says on the bottom, shall be saved from wrath through him. Okay, so yeah, we're going to be saved, right? Through the Most High, man. Right? And then it also reads in verse 22, it says, even the righteousness of the Most High Power, which is by faith of Hamashiach, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference, right? Not against that. And then it says here, chapter 10, verse 9, if thou that shall confess with your mouth that Hamashiach, and shall believe in thy heart that the Most High Power have raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. Yeah, I'm not against that neither. Of course, I believe Hamashiach was sent to the Most High. He was the son of the Most High. He taught the Tanakh to his people. Okay? So as it says right here, it says, therefore, we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Okay, so this is what they teach you here, man. See, this is the doctrine that they teach the people, right? They teach you this right here. So they give you these pamphlets right here, man, right? They give you these pamphlets, and then they tell you, okay, see right here in Romans chapter 3, verse 28, it tells you that you're not saved by the deeds of your law. Okay, so the only thing that you have to do is just have faith in Christ, right? Even though I still call him Christ, because Christ just means the anointed one, the savior. Personally, I don't understand why a lot of brothers, they have a problem with that, because it's a title, it's not a name. So, Christ is just the savior, the Messiah, right? That's all it means. It's just in Latin, right? That's what Christ means in Latin. It's the Messiah, it's the Christ, right? So I don't have no problem with saying Christ. Now, in the modern day Hebrew, it's Messiah, okay? And then in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, it's Hamashiach, all right? So the Hamashiach means the Messiah in the modern day Hebrew, and in Latin, it means Christ. It's just a title. So I got no problem with saying Christ, but you will not have me calling upon the name of JC. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I tell anybody that I'm not calling on the name of JC. That means Earth Pig Man, right? So this is what they'll do. They'll give you this pamphlet, and then they'll tell you, see, you don't have to do anything according to the law, because you're not saved by the deeds of your law. But didn't I just bring out so many scriptures, man, telling you that you have to perform the law in order to receive remission of sins? You have to be purged from the sins of this world, man. Okay? You have to be purged from your worldly mindset. Okay? And come back to the Most High and keep the law, statutes, commandments, and its ordinances, man. That's the only way that you're going to be granted grace to make it to Shamayim. All right? I brought out so many scriptures so far already, man. All right? But we're going to dig into this even more. Okay? So this is what this Christian so-called pamphlet pastor will tell you, that you don't need to perform the deeds of the law. You don't have to keep the ordinances. You don't have to keep the high holy days. You don't have to keep the seventh day Sabbath. You don't have to keep the dietary law. Everything that you eat is good. It's all a creation of the Most High, right? It's all creation of God, right? Even if you eat pork, even if you eat shrimp, it's all a creation of the Most High. You just got to just pray over it and give thanks to it, and everything's going to be all right, right? You're not defiled by what goes into the mouth and what comes out of the drought, right? And which I believe, I agree with that, right? You're only defiled by what's come out of your mind, right? However, according to the law, you're not supposed to be eating shellfish. You're not supposed to be eating pork. Okay, so if you're eating all of those things, then you have a mindset to do that. You're ignoring the law that the Most High gave you in the Tanakh. So you're unclean. You're defiled in the mind. Okay, so you can't say this because I'm eating a piece of pork, I'm defiled in the mind. Yes, you are. You're defiled in the mind, because the Most High tells us in the Tanakh, in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 14, in the book of Leviticus chapter 11, we're not supposed to be consuming swine, even in the book of Isaiah chapter 66. So you're still defiled in the mind, man, which is your heart. So yes, right, even though you are eating catfish, you are eating shrimp, lobster, crabs, clams, and all of that pork, you're still defiled in the mind, because the Most High told us not to do that. That was a direct commandment, man. Okay? We're not supposed to be eating squirrel. Okay, we're not supposed to be eating octopus. We're not supposed to be eating what's that other stuff these people be eating, man? It's crazy. The diet that our people have today, man, it's ridiculous. Turtle soup, right? You're not supposed to be eating. You're not supposed to be eating shark, man. You're not supposed to be eating dolphins. Okay, you're not supposed to be eating this stuff, man. Tuna fish, right? And which a lot of our brothers and sisters don't know about. Tuna fish is a smooth-bodied fish, man. All right. The Most High tells us in the book of Deuteronomy 14 and Leviticus 11 that the fish must have scales and fins, man. Tuna fish don't have scales and fins. Okay. So if you're eating a nice tuna fish sandwich because you don't want to kindle a fire for cooking during the Sabbath, well, you're still defiling the Sabbath because you're eating unclean. Tuna fish is unclean. You can't even eat the salmon nowadays, man. Right? Because they done contaminated the salmon with eel. Okay, they claim that society have a high demand in salmon now. So in order to meet that demand, they have to mix the genetics with a fish that grows super fast, right? Which is the eel, okay, and some sort of a sea trout or something like that, which is an unclean fish, right? So you can't even eat salmon nowadays. I used to love salmon. I haven't ate salmon like probably in 4 years now, probably longer. Because once I found that out, they've been doing this for a while too. They've been doing this ever since probably, I think, like 2015 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So once I found that out like in 2021, 2020, I stopped eating salmon. I used to always eat salmon, right? I used to love to put salmon in the oven, smother it with onions and, green and red bell peppers and all of that stuff and throw some garlic up in there. And I can't even do that because it's tainted. It's defiled. You're eating part eel, man, right? So these devils, man, they did a lot of sneaky stuff, man. Even with the vegetables, you can't even eat vegetables the way you want to anymore because they're putting you don't know what in it, right? So you can't even eat that now. It's like you really have to be mindful of what you're consuming out here nowadays. It's crazy, right? You think you're eating healthy, but you're really not, right? All of this stuff out here that they contaminating, forget about it. You can't even really eat chicken like that no more. They poking the chicken now, and then when you get it and you go to cook it, it's falling apart in your hand, right? You can't even eat that, right? With the so-called beef, right? In which I also read before that, all red meat can be considered beef right now, right? If the meat is red, it's considered beef, no matter what it is, right? It could be horse, it can be deer or buck or whatever. Even though deers and buck is considerably clean according to the biblical dietary law, but I'm still questionable about that. I don't think that I would probably eat a deer or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But maybe one day, I don't know. It's considerably clean. So, but if it's a horse, it's considered clean. Some people in some countries are eating horse, right? I was watching a video about that one day. They had this guy who wanted to see if his family can determine what's the difference in texture and taste between a horse and a regular steak. And he didn't tell them what they was eating. He just cooked them both. And when he finished cooking them, he asked them, what's the difference? Is it the same, or do you sense any kind of difference in texture or taste or whatever? And they knew. They said it was a taste. It's been a long time since I watched the video, but they said to him, they said, yeah, it's a difference. It's a slight difference in this taste. And it doesn't taste like ordinary beef or steak or anything like that, but he seasoned it up so well, you can't really tell the difference because you think you're just eating a good tasting steak. But they did notice the difference, but they kept on eating it. And then at the end, when they finished eating it, of course, the husband, he finished most of the horse or whatever. He let them know that his family was eating horse. And they was pretty distraught by it, and they was a little upset, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they didn't know the dietary law. They didn't go off on them and say, hey, well, according to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, and Leviticus 11, and the book of Isaiah, they didn't go off on them like that. They just was a little disgusted because they never ate horse before. So, but at the end of the day, they shunned it off and swept it under a rug, and they just said, okay, well, that's the difference. This is a piece of beef and this is a piece of horse, right? But according to the Bible, even Peter himself said in the book of Acts, right? I believe it's chapter 13, that he have not eaten anything that's common, right? And that sheet that was lowered down from heaven, horses, was one of the animals, which is one of the unclean animals. Okay, so you're not supposed to be consuming stuff like that, man. So this is a part of the biblical law that we're supposed to be following. Okay, so you can't pass out a pamphlet and say that you're not saved by the deeds of the law, because the Most High have commanded us to do these things. We must keep the law. We got to purify ourselves, man. Not only in our souls, but our minds too, right? So this is what we're supposed to be doing as a nation of people, man, if we want salvation and grace and a chance at everlasting life and avoiding eternal damnation, man. Right? So as it says here, justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Okay? So not the scripture, but let's rebuke the doctrine of that, right? Let's go to the book of Romans, the same chapter, just a few verses down, verses 30. All right. And you notice in that pamphlet, they left that out. Okay. So they're going to give you verse 38, but they're not going to go down just 3 verses, right? That's all they had to do. But they purposely left that out, man. Purposely. Okay. So as it says there, verse 28, as I read on the pamphlet, right? Therefore, we conclude that a man or woman is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Okay, well, let's go down to verse 30. And it reads, it says, seeing it is one power which shall justify the circumcision, okay, which is of the law by faith, and uncircumcision through faith. Okay, if you're not circumcised, then you're not keeping the law. And then it says here, hopefully that you guys can read it because they have that ad down there. It says, do we then make void, okay, look up the definition of void, the law through faith, which is faith only? What it says, the Most High power forbid, okay? Yea, we establish the law. All right, so Paul right here, just 3 verses down, he's letting you know that we have to keep the law, man. Okay? We have to keep the law. Now, this is a message to you so-called pamphlet printers, man. Now, if you want to tell someone that they're only saved through faith, right? Now, let us know the reason why you guys left out the book of Romans, chapter 3, verses 30 to 31. Let us know the reason why. All right. So you want to pass these biblical verses around with lies and deception, right? With a lot of deceitfulness in your heart, man. All right. Tell us the reason why you left out verses 30 through 31. When it tells us, Paul himself tells us, do we make void the law through faith only? No, we establish the law. Okay, meaning that we have to keep the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. So let me know down in the comment section if you see this video, whoever printed this printout, this pamphlet, let me know why you left out verses 30 through 31, man. And all of you so-called Christian churchgoers too, right? You see this video, let us know the reason why we shouldn't follow verses 30 through 31, what Paul himself said in the New Testament, man, right? We're supposed to be keeping these laws, man. Right? We're not supposed to avoid these laws. Just like I said, look up the definition of void and see what that means. Okay? We're supposed to be keeping these laws, man. Right? So this is the reason why I say videos like this have to be done, man. We have to rebuke the doctrine, okay? Not the pamphlet itself, because the scriptures and the verses in this pamphlet is true. It's the doctrine that these so-called Christian churchgoers, man, these Sunday worshipers would tell you that you're not supposed to be keeping the law, man. And only 3 verses down, it tells you Paul himself said that we should not void the law, man. Right? In continuation, let's go to chapter 7, still in the book of Romans.